Now, new rappers are not better than old school rappers, if you ask me. In this video, I want to talk about some comments DDG recently made about new rappers being better than the rappers back in the day. I have a couple things to say about what he said, so yeah, let's talk about it. Now, DDG. Are you guys familiar with DDG? DDG is a 24-year-old rapper out of Michigan. A lot of people still recognize DDG as a YouTube rapper. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, that's how DDG got started. He got started on YouTube making vlogs, built a really solid audience as a YouTuber, and then promoted his music with the help of the platform he had built. These days, I consider DDG a rapper and nothing else. Personally, I don't really associate DDG too much with the YouTuber title because I feel like he's made too much progress as a rapper for that to be the case. So for being considered a YouTube rapper, I think DDG is doing pretty damn good. Now that aside, can we talk about DDG's recent comments about new rappers being better than old school rappers? DDG, about actually 3 weeks ago, so I am a little late on this, but about 3 weeks ago, he hopped on Twitter and made a pretty bold statement that I want to bring up and discuss. This is what he said. On his first tweet, he said, "Today's rappers are 10 times better than the rappers back in the day." By the way, if you're looking at the screen, he did say back in the today, but that's obviously a typo. Also, he did add respectfully after that tweet, so today's rappers are 10 times better than the rappers back in the day. Respectfully, moving on. He also put up another tweet saying, "I respect the older generation of hip-hop, but this generation's creativity on another level for real. Hip-hop ain't never been the #1 genre until now." By the way, just a quick comment on that. Technically, that's not true because hip-hop didn't become the biggest genre just now, like DDG said. Hip-hop officially became the biggest genre in 2017, and this is according to some actual reports from Nielsen, which is probably the most credible source when it comes to music industry related stats. I know DDG wasn't thinking too much when he put up that tweet, but I think it's important to clarify. If we run with the fact that hip-hop just now became the biggest genre, then this conversation would have to sound a little different because things were different in 2017 in comparison to now. So hip-hop's been the biggest genre in the US since 2017, before a lot of the rappers who are popping right now popped. He also put up this other tweet where he was responding to one of his supporters who was challenging him by saying that Biggie and Tupac can be compared to anyone from this generation. DDG responded back saying, "On some real shit, when was the last time you listened to either in the car? Be truthful." So this is what DDG pretty much said. The tweet that's been getting a lot of backlash is this one right here when he said, "Today's rappers are better than the rappers back in the day." This tweet has been met with a lot of controversy. DDG's definitely been getting a lot of pushback for what he said, and I see where that pushback is coming from, so let's keep on talking. First of all, let's just get this out of the way, okay? Let's look at the source. DDG is a young rapper who came up in this generation of rap. His loyalty lies in this generation, so understand who the source is. That's why I'm not really surprised that he feels this way. Most rappers from this new generation, I would say, probably feel this way, but they're not going to vocalize it because they don't want to receive a bunch of unnecessary backlash and be called ungrateful. There's a couple angles to what DDG said. The first one being hip-hop overall is more diverse now. That is undeniable. There's more flavor in the game, there's more sounds in the game, there's better production. Sonically, the music just sounds better now thanks to this thing called technology. Shout out to all the great engineers. These are all things that have naturally came with time because as time has passed, the genre has just gotten better in that sense. I'd be very worried if hip-hop today, after all this time, sounded the same. As for what DDG said, specifically the controversial tweet, that's not something I agree with because here's the thing. Today's rappers are better than the rappers back in the day, depending on what you're looking for. I think we need to emphasize that part. Better at the end of the day is subjective as hell, okay? Let's just say it like it is. It all depends on what qualities in said rapper you as a listener are looking for. One thing that's really lacking, okay, especially in the mainstream side of things, but this is really lacking with a lot of rappers, and that is substance. Now, this is a very broad statement because there's plenty of rappers with substance, 1000%, okay? Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying overall, in the grand scheme of things, hip-hop has, with time, became more diluted. The way things are these days, man, there's obviously not as much of a focus on saying something as there is on sounding good no matter what you're saying. So musically, the rappers of today sound better, but they're not better as in better MCs, better spitters, better storytellers and whatnot. So let's not confuse hip-hop evolving as a genre with that automatically meaning today's rappers are better. Hip-hop has gone through a lot of transitions, especially in the last 20 years, and this evolution has allowed every generation that's came after the current generation at the time to learn from their predecessors' mistakes. So a guy like DDG, okay, even if he doesn't know it, is thriving thanks to the work the rappers back back in the day did. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for Pac and Biggie, if it wasn't for all the OGs, then none of the shit this new generation is doing would be possible. I think a lot of the rappers, specifically the new ones, okay, the new and young ones, confuse sounding better with being better. There's a very, very, very big distinction right there to be pointed out. You can sound better, but at the same time be worse. There's countless of examples as far as rappers when it comes to that. And here's the thing, man, a lot of rappers from this generation, their sound is very pleasing to listen to, but if we keep it 1,000, without that sound, without that auto-tune, without that hard-ass trap beat, without those ad-libs, without those melodies, what exactly are they standing on? Really try my best not to sound like an old head because I'm for this new generation, that's what I cover on my channel, but this is me being completely unbiased and as honest as I can be. A lot of rappers out here are not saying a damn thing in their records. It sounds good, that's why I listen to it, but I'm not picking up any life lessons or any insight from these new rappers. I'm hearing a good sounding record, cool, and I take it for what it is because me being grown means I don't look to other people, especially rappers, to guide me. I'm entertained by the music and I treat it as such. Entertainment. That's one thing about hip hop and rappers now. This shit is strictly entertainment, and I hope anyone who's listening to this doesn't fall for the hype. This is another conversation, but let me just digress for a second. You should not be idolizing these rappers, period. A lot of people still unfortunately do, and I used to be there myself, but you know, that's when I was younger and I didn't know any better. But like I said earlier, apart from the ad-libs, skr, the melodies, the song sounding good, thanks to technology, shout out to the engineers, what are they standing on? Because Pac and Biggie didn't have access to all this technology. Yet over 20 years later, we're still talking about them like they died yesterday, which goes to show that what they had wasn't built on anything superficial. If that was the case, they'd be forgotten a couple years after they passed. That's another thing about this new generation of rappers, they just don't have a lot of impact. No rapper from this generation can really compare themselves to Pac and Biggie because they haven't stood the test of time. Keeping it real, most rappers from this generation are lucky if they're even remembered 5 years after they blow up. That's the reality of the game now. Rappers come and rappers go. There's just so many people doing this to the point where the industry has gotten saturated. The demand for new music is higher than ever because things are moving so fast. Now that is one disadvantage the rappers from this generation have. They have to keep up with the industry's pace or else they'll get left behind. That obviously affects the amount of time they're able to put into the music, which directly has an effect on the quality because you can't rush greatness. But this is just the way the game is set up these days, and despite that fact, there's still a lot of rappers thriving. So really, as a rapper, if this aspect of the industry is holding you back, then you were probably never cut out to be in the game anyway. Going back to what DDG said, I personally think his comments are biased because he is a product of this new generation after all. I don't really agree with him when he says that new rappers are better than the rappers back in the day. I just think the rappers of today sound better, musically speaking, because hip-hop as a genre has evolved beyond what it used to sound like in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. Like we clarified earlier, sounding better doesn't equate to being better. At the end of the day, man, what's good, what's bad, that's all subjective. It all comes down to what the listener is looking for, aka you. But yeah, why new rappers are not better than old school rappers. This is a very timeless conversation, so I really wanted to give my take on it. Anyway, my take on it aside, do you have any thoughts on it? Do you think the rappers of today are better than the old school rappers? Yes, no, whatever answer you pick. Why? Very curious to hear what you have to say. So with that being said, definitely let me know in the comment section below and like this video, like this video, like this video, like this video. Let's have a discussion about this.